We're going to begin tonight with two verses. The first one is going to be Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. It says, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." And then 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 13. "But ye, brethren, be not weary in well-doing." To me, this verse implies something. It implies that when you do the right thing and you do well, because it's in well-doing that we're going to get a well done. That's deep. There is the possibility and the potential to get weary. I have experienced weariness in my personal life. I was raised in a denomination that never got weary in well-doing. Nobody really stayed at a certain church. The preacher would come in and then stay 3 years or so and then go to the next church. And they would never be planted or committed to get the roots to really produce the fruit of what God's ministry is. And most of the time, those guys never get the opportunity to even find out what the truth is, because they're so busy starting over again and go through what they know till they get to a place, and then they get a new wife, so to speak. And I realize through my experience with people that it's so easy to get weary in our walk. There's not a whole lot of immediate fulfillment in your Christian walk. As a pastor, an apostle, and having a church, there's not a lot of gratification that you can see instantaneous, bam, because it is a process that takes time. And you don't get an end result till the end. It's not really over till it's over. And you never know what the end result's going to be till the end. So what happens is you have to just be faithful. You have to be consistent. You have to keep doing what we're doing, keep being obedient. And what happens if we don't realize, and being in the moment, so to speak, you don't really realize the kind of growth that you have. Sometimes we forget where we came from. We forgot what manner of man we were, what manner of woman we were, what God has really saved us out of. And so what we do, we just become lax again. I've seen it many, many, many times, where people come to church and they get excited about whatever they're excited about. My dad used to tell me, I'd say, "Yeah, I want this, Daddy." And he said, "You'll want it till the beauty wears off." So I knew I wasn't getting it when he said that. And the fact is, he's correct. In everything in life, the commitment that we have to it has to be there even after the beauty wears off. But to me, in my Christian walk, there has always been wilderness experiences at every level that I went to. When I came from here to here, there was always a 30, 60, 100-fold experience. And then to the next level, 30, 60, 100-fold experience. The 30 being a new freshness, and then the 60 being wilderness. Because between 60 and 100 is 40, and that's exactly what happened to the children of Israel. 30 was Passover, 60 was Pentecost. Man, Pentecost, everybody's excited. Everybody's excited what's doing. Man, we got this going, we got this doing, we got something fresh and new. We got to have, there's a new teaching series, and we're using movies. Now we're going to talk about, we're going to have the Andy Griffith teaching series, so we can learn some real Bible truths from Barney and Goober. There's always got to be something happening, from fresh. We got a new face, a new this, a new that, a new song, and that tends to entertain and make people think something's happening. And when you're an entrepreneur or you're ambitious, then you can even deceive yourself about something's really happening. Where that wilderness experience is always a dry place. It's always a place where you just have to be committed. It's in that time that you're going to be tempted. There's that time you're going to be tested, that you're going to be tried. Yahweh's going to see who you really are and why you're really doing what you're doing. He will test the intent and the motive of your heart. And this, what happens is this. That's when people begin to faint. People start off, man, I've seen them come in, bam, getting buzzard, man, God save me, I'm this, I'm done, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, well, man, that's wonderful. But wilderness is going to come. And you have the potential, and I have the potential, and if we don't step back and recognize what it is about us. I've taught about that inner law and the outer law. Y'all remember that? Well, this is that part of that inner law of death. If we don't discover the truth about us, about our personal self, then what will happen is we will justify going back to Egypt. And you may not go back to Egypt, back to the exact same sin that you used to be, but you know what? You're the same person you were then. There's no change in our lives. There's no change in our attitude. There's no growth in love. I taught a message a couple of weeks ago on the 9, the fruit of the Spirit. The fruit of the Spirit tells you whether you are growing or not. It really tells you whether you're a Christian or not. But we, in our wilderness state, we get weary, and guess what we do? We justify not being those things. We justify them. And this is how we do it. We blame you for it. The reason I'm not acting the way I am is because of you. I don't like you. You don't hold up your bargain. You don't do what you say. You're not a man of your word. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. So we justify that. And so today, I want to talk about two things. Well, okay, it's going to be more than two. But I want to talk about being weary. And you're doing good. We're doing the right thing. But guess what? We will justify and go right back to the kind of person we were. Or maybe you never really were anything different. You've been playing church. I don't believe you go to heaven when you die anymore. I don't believe that. I believe this. I believe. We can have all these beliefs, but until it changes our character and goes down to the very root of the being of who we are and why we do things and how we act and how we think, guess what? We haven't transformed at all. I think it has to do with one thing, and that's expectations. And I think that every one of us, and I want you to know I'm preaching to me when I preach, because I'm preaching the Bible, and the Bible applies to me. That Spirit word is alive and well, and it is for everybody. But I have experienced my own self, and I've had to recognize it and deal with it. And if I don't deal with it, guess what? I will not be a happy person. I will not be a maturing person. I will just be a person who has accepted some different things, but yet I'm still this person. Maybe I didn't do what I used to do anymore, but I still haven't changed the root of what caused me to do that. That's causing me to do other things. You understand? The same root will cause you may not do this anymore, but it produces this kind of fruit. Different sin, same root. So what we do, we think we're God, and we create expectations for ourselves. Man, I can't tell you how many times I was prophesied over about how great I was going to be. How this, you're going to be this. I tell you, I couldn't, she'll tell you, even if we were married, I couldn't go to a church service till they called me out. Yea, I say unto thee, the Lord has called you man of God, blah, 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 blah. So there was an expectation on me, and I created the visual of what I thought that meant. And if I didn't live up to that, I felt like a failure. I want to tell you why. Because I was a victim of a wounded spirit. I was a victim of a wounded spirit. You know, they say, you see a guy doing things and he's an overachiever, and they say he has a Napoleon syndrome, short man syndrome. You grab a short man by the arm and he'll flex it up like that. Those inferiorities and those insecurities were something that you got. before you were born, because it is inherited, it's called sin. And number two, your environment does nothing more but emphasizes those very things that already were in your DNA. It's a basic human, fallen man trait to project our desires, what I want, and what I think onto people, especially those that we're closest to. Man, I've seen people act so nice. Hi there, how are you? Eddie Haskell kind of guy. If you don't know who that is, I ain't going to tell you. How you doing? Oh, nice. God bless you. But then treat their wife like she's a piece of beep. Or a woman who, she's all this stuff, but at home she's just mean. And so we have an expectation on people, especially if we've taken the chance to allow them to become significant to us. Oh my God, I've let you become significant to me, so you better not hurt me. You better not fail me. And it's because I have this vision of my mind and in my mind of what I think success or whatever that expectation may have created in me, and you better live up to it, because if you don't, that means I'm rejected. Expectations like that in any kind of relationship. Watch this. House number 1, house number 2, house number 3. With you and God, with you and the church, with you and your family, and with you and your own self. All these assumptions, these unspoken ideals that you need, you project on other people. And guess what it does? It destroys intimacy, relationships, and love that you might have for each other. To me, this is the number one sabotage of a great ecclesia, a great marriage, a great person. Because a great person will never stay great because of having a wounded spirit. Because they'll get weary in well-doing quick. You know why? Because they'll get tired of doing good for you and you not living up to their expectations. I'm talking from experience, guys. I know what I'm talking about today. For me and for hundreds of people that I've seen come and go. People look at me, I'll never leave. When they tell me that, I'm like, oh, don't say that, please. What it does, listen to this, Joel. It creates a nation of aliens. Alien nation. Y'all hearing what I'm saying? I titled this tonight for the Ustream broadcast, Aliens, because I know people will listen to it. So this is only aliens you're going to get from me. You become, do you remember years ago I talked about alien nation? And y'all always speaking to me about an alien nation, a nation of people that were alienated. I just was prophesying it and just saying I really didn't know what it means. I'll tell you, I know what it means today. It ain't some guy with a big head, and I love to watch Twilight Zone where the aliens come out there, They talk like my wife does to Echo. Will you put some milk on the shopping list? Jonathan was kidding with you. I'm sorry, honey. I know. Oh, yeah. But I always say, thank you. She makes fun of me doing that. It will cause you to become an alien. And what it does, it creates a body, not a body of Christ, a body of aliens, a nation of aliens. Here we are, instead of a kingdom of God, you can become a nation of aliens. How many times have you got your feelings hurt because you mistakenly assumed somebody else knew what you thought or what you expected. They didn't live up to what your rules are, and guess what? They get a feelings hurt. How many times have you become annoyed or angry with somebody who acted differently than what your expectation was? I want to tell you, thousands. Who they think they are. I got to tell you, I was in a certain city one time when they used to invite me to come preach. Preach had a great message, a great service. After church, we all went out to eat. And the host pastor that had me in, we went to this place. It was almost closing time, and we walked in, and he wanted the red carpet rolled out, the announcement, so-and-so is here. He wanted to be treated like he was some kind of royal guy. He comes walking in there, and because they didn't jump right to his service. Now, this guy, nobody even knew him. He got into an argument with the waiter because the waiter didn't bring his water out fast enough. And there were like 20 of us. I want to tell you why he acted like that. Because he had a wounded spirit. If you really love me, you ... Why didn't you ... Or how about this? Why didn't you ... You fill in the blank. This is what I like. You should. Have you ever told me what you should? Anybody say, what I think is you should ... You should. It doesn't matter what area of relationship. The relationship, how many of you know you need to learn to get along with yourself, first of all? If you don't like yourself, for all these reasons, you're going to have trouble everywhere. In your marriage, in the ecclesia. Every person, it doesn't matter what kind of relationship that we're talking about here, every person's expectation is the number one thing that will play part in determining whether you're going to have a healthy relationship with somebody or it's just going to be squirrely. It's going to be up and down. It's going to be this. It's going to be, there's always going to be something. And how many of you know that gets uncomfortable? I used to say this, I heard this years ago. Old man said, thin skin is a terrible disease. Well, I want to tell you what. Somebody with thin skin who tries to have tough skin is a demented disease. That don't bother me. I don't care what you do. You do whatever you want to do. I don't care. Well, you just proved you do. Perceptions of a relationship change when there's a contrast between the reality of what things really are and our ideas and the world that we've created, what we expect others to, and what hoops we want them to jump through. That's why when you have the Spirit of God and the fruit of the Spirit, then you will love people. And what that love does is it strengthens when you begin to see a relationship for what it really is. No. Well, I see what this relationship really is. No. But it sees what a relationship is really supposed to be with people who say that they are Christians and they have Christ, the Spirit of Christ in them. Having some unrealistic or unfulfilled idea of how you want somebody else to act, what's convenient to you, what that does is it is an absolute sure way to ruin all relationships, and it causes an ecclesia and a family to become aliens. When somebody is stubborn and strong-willed, and I don't think strong is always a good thing, this desire that somebody meets some expectation that to them may even be an impossible expectation, They become blinded to the reality of who a person really is, and they refuse to love who that person really is, and they want them to be what they demand them to be before they'll love them. Well, when you do that and they try to be that, you don't really love them. Even if the person is doing their best to meet our expectations, I want to tell you, it will never be exactly the way they want it, and you know that you're going to do one thing wrong, and then they're going to pout and whine like a little girl. This is good preaching. Thank you very kindly. Why? Because expectations in a relationship are most of the time not attainable. Even if they're able to, even if they're the kind of person that does it, the circumstance that they may be having on a particular time may not warrant it. You know, hey man, I want you to do so and so. Well, if you are in the hospital, you can't do it. Sometimes that don't matter to anybody. I think every human has the potential of a preconceived notion of what we want in the kind of ideal wife, husband, friend, and then that's how we choose who we're going to have a relationship and friendship and relationship with. Let me tell you something about Yahweh. He's going to send you people that don't fit those because, number one, there are no people probably that fit those. That's number one. Number two is he has, his love is for all of us. So what we do, if we can't have people to act the way and be the kind of friend we want them to be or have the kind of relationship we want them to be, guess what? Then we just won't have a relationship. And now you've just become an alien. Because God didn't say, well, no, you got to love a person that acts the way you want them to act. They have to be what you want them to be. When someone has unclear or unspoken expectation, it will surface at some point, and you will do something to that person that will cause them to get angry or hurt and then shut down on you. Remember I talked about one time about the shrug? That's one of the worst things I've ever seen when somebody shrugs. When they look away. When a person that will walk away from you because of some stupid thing that you couldn't live up to, that they've never been able to live up to, but they want it because they have a wounded spirit. Different types of these expectations, it kills the joy of the love of God flowing through you for what are true relationships. Me too. All of these expectations that I have, I had to learn that I had to be transformed by the renewing of my mind. I had to change those thoughts that were put in me by maybe family values, family traditions. Listen, I came from Georgia. We were prejudiced. I mean, it was in me. I was prejudiced, man, about all different kind of things. I had to get saved. And what that did, it gave me love for people that I was told was somehow different. Maybe a past relationship. Maybe something happened in your past with somebody else. Well, they did me wrong, so guess what? They did me, you're going to do me like that too? Well, just forget it. I'm going to stay an alien. Some past experience that you have. Expecting the other person to provide your and my personal happiness or fulfillment of some deficit we have, projecting onto somebody else how we want or need them to be for us. Look, I need you to be like this for me. This is how I am, so I need you to be like this for me. If you can't be like this for me, guess what? We just can't be friends. We can't have a relationship. We can't do that. I'm speaking with sarcasm tonight because I want to tell you, I I have seen myself be that way, and it's a pitiful, ugly, ungodly, carnal thing. And I thank God that He's let me see how ugly I am in that, and that He's delivering me from that and healed me of a wounded spirit. Most importantly, problems in any relationship, and I tell everybody this, the number one problem in the marriage is not sex or money. It's lack of communication. Communication, well, sometimes there's too much communication. You know what I'm saying? Because what you're communicating isn't godly. But the lack, or I like this word, miscommunication. Because a person with a wounded spirit, you can look at them and say, I love you. They can't hear it. You can tell them, you say, hey man, I'm really sorry. They can't hear that. Our past experiences have shaped how we think and how we feel and what we do and how we act. It's through various influences in our life that we form this unclear and even unrealistic expectation on others. And the key influences that have shaped us and what we say we believe versus what we really believe. See, I find out what a person really believes when you don't live up to their expectation. I'm not talking about doing something stupid out there. You know, I have an expectation of people here tonight to not rob the Jiffy store on the way home. I have an expectation of that. I'm not talking about blatant sin. But we have these influences in our lives. I believe it starts from a child. Now, that's no great revelation. I think anybody who's ever studied human nature or psychology or anything else, they know how important those childhood years are. I think it has to do with our gender. And I'm not talking about operational gender, being one and becoming another one. I think it has to do with our age. I think it has to do with our culture that we were raised in. I think it has to do with traumatic events in our life that took place as a child or in older. I think it has to do with religious beliefs. Yeah. And my God, political beliefs. Each person is a compilation, and they are a whole product of their past history. It has formed who they are. And it's that life that we must hate. But to many of us, it became, and it has become, and it still is, our babysitter. Goo-goo, well, you just do that. I don't care. I'll show you. Goo-goo. That's not tongues. So what we do, we become experts, and we learn through experience and by trial and error how to get our needs met and how to get our desires fulfilled. Man, we got some professionals. I mean, some professional people. The quality of interaction with significant other peoples from our birth onward have an effect on the way that we view everything and everybody, even the world. Even our government, even church, even everything. And so what I have to deal with a lot of times when people hear me speak, man, I like what you're saying. No, you think I'm being rebellious, and you're rebellious. But I know this, that wounded spirit in you, that rebel in you, is going to rebel against me too. And everything else, anybody looks at you wrong. Now, of course, I'm not talking to anybody here tonight. We're talking to those people on Ustream. We've learned through experimenting. As a child, I've seen children learn how very quickly how to get what they want. We learn whether we can trust ourselves and others during that time. We've learned to feel worthy or confident, overworthy, overconfident, or ashamed or guilty of who we are. Man, I used to live with this guilty complex, man. God gonna get you. God's going to get you. And my idea of God was, man, that he was this bad person. When I got the revelation that God loved me, it confused me. But I had something to relate to, and it came really from when Jonathan was born. My firstborn child gave me a revelation of love that I never had before. You know why? Because I love this thing, and you know what? I'm glad I called it alien, because he was in the birth canal so long, he came out with his mushroom head. He looked like an alien. I loved him. I loved him. I loved him right there. I loved him. He didn't do nothing for months and years. Poop, eat, cry, demand. Loved him. What happens is, whatever those experiences are that we're talking about, all that childhood, that early stuff, what it did to us is it imprinted in us at that early age, and it subconsciously sets into motion a personality. And that fallen man is what God wants to heal you from and deliver you from and save you from. What about Satan? That's nothing. Because those things I just said about you and about me is really the core of what you really believe. And when I say something that goes against, when I preach something against the core of what a person has in them like that, guess what? They resist. I ain't doing that. You crazy? I don't get me. You think I'm doing? What did he say? What? My mama ain't in heaven. What? I mean, man, I'll tell you what they do. Y'all know. Same way people that do in any relationship. You cannot even have an honest talk with people that are like that. Because I'll give you a good story. Had a guy at our church for years. Loved him. Man, loved this guy. Loved him. Still love him. Love his family. And I was wrong. Because I knew that if I ever talked to him like a man, he couldn't take it. So he came to my office one day and said some things to me. And I said, listen, man, I got to be honest with you. You're one of the only guys in this church that I've never talked to man as a man. Just saying that, the dude flipped out on me. He said, why? I said, because I know if I talk to you like a man, you'll leave the church. No, I won't either. So I talked to him like a man. He left the church. Because he had a wounded spirit. Now, when I say talking to you like a man, I'm just talking about speaking the truth. And y'all know, I'm not a mean guy. And I don't say things to try to hurt people or anything like that. I just told him some truths. He flipped. And when you uncover that with truth, number one, if they've given you the right in their life to do it, and if you have that authority by relationship, but even then, if you uncover that truth, because their spirit is so wounded, and because really it comes down to it, they have all these bad thoughts about their self, guess what they'll do? They won't be able to face you anymore because they want you to love the image of what they're trying to project instead of you loving who they really are. There's not a whole lot of people let you love who they really are or let you see who they really are, except their problem is they're going, this is who I am, love me or leave me. And they got the same problem, but it's just from the other side of the spectrum. Are y'all hearing me tonight? I know what a person's core beliefs are. That's why people come to church, because of relationships. I'm not really interested in that, because our relationships are tainted by the things that we need to get saved from and healed of. A guy came to church one time, and I think I told this story maybe the other day. I'm getting old. I'll probably repeat myself. He come to church. Yeah, y'all don't remember anyhow. Yeah. Man, that's a good news story. He came to church. Hey, I want to be part of the church. I want to join the church. How do I get to be this? I said, let me ask you one thing. The guy that brought him, was standing there. I said, what if he gets mad at me and leaves the church? What are you going to do? He said, I'll probably leave the church too. I said, well, I'm not interested. Because that core belief has to be the Bible. The core belief has to be those 9 fruit. The core belief is that that's who I am, this is who I am, and my core belief is I need to get saved from me. That's the core belief. That's where misguided relationship expectations begin. It begins with the core of what you really believe. Oh, I can tap it easy. I'm not bragging on that. I can tap it easy. A lot of times I tap it and I don't even know I'm doing it. It's called word of knowledge and you don't even know it. I've sit down in restaurants with men all the time and I'll just start talking. I didn't know what I happen to be talking about is the very thing that they have hidden sin about or whatever it is. And I've had them run out of restaurants before. So what'd I say? Each person brings into any type of attempt to have a true relationship their past upbringing, their baggage. Because along the process, we've taken all those things, hurt, rejection, bad parents, this, failure, whatever it may be. Sin is what it really is, and we've internalized it. So now what is that internal lie? It's the law of sin and death. It's that law stuff. It's out here. We need something that's greater than that to deliver us and not just overcome it by power. I'm going to beat you down. But to set us free from it. Man, I want to be set free from the power of a wounded spirit. And I'm not talking about a wounded spirit that's baby somebody. No. When a person grows up in their family, let's say, and their parents didn't do a good job, which is 100% of all families. Because all kids think your parents don't do a good job. You didn't raise me right. You know what, you used to whip me. You said, daggone right I did. Yeah, I guarantee you, I did the best I could, but I'm sure that a lot of my problems was projected on them. They didn't live at my expectation. I just got the belt out. I get that. But my point is, children will come to an understanding or a feeling that nobody cares about what they think. And the domino effect of this is that the individual don't verbalize what they need or what they feel, but they still feel disappointed when others don't automatically feel or figure out what they're feeling. Now, can I say that again? When somebody doesn't say, hey, I don't feel like you're listening to me. Now, my wife says I'm deaf. And you know what? I'm beginning to think I am. And I have a habit, I'm working on it, to say, huh, before she's even finished talking, huh? Or she says something, I know what she says, I've heard it, but before I can answer her or whatever, I say, huh. Well, guess what she says? Forget it. That's a beautiful thing. So, when I don't ask you what's your need, what are you feeling, then what happens is you feel disappointed because I'm not a psychic that I can know what you're feeling or thinking. Most people aren't even interested in how you're feeling or whatever. They're doing their thing, and you're doing your thing. Y'all kind of go by, well, okay, Bob. But to really stop and be interested and look somebody in the eye, we don't do that much. I mean, Underwood tells me all the time, he said, man, you like shiny stuff, don't you? Because I'll be talking to him, he said, all of a sudden I'm distracted. I have literally left the service before and called people back and said, man, did I walk away from our conversation? If I did, I apologize. And people won't express the needs that they have because of that wounded spirit. and they get frustrated and angry because they want somebody to understand, but they don't, and they can't read your mind, so the person gets offended and pouts. That's the best way I can say it. Listen, I've been married a long time. I've been a pretty good professional pouter in my time. What are you looking at? I said, I have been a professional, you be quiet, please, pouter. You know what a pouter is? Oh, you're from Spanish. Here it is. What do you call that? Pouting isn't just your lips. It's an attitude of, I didn't get my way. Feeling sorry for yourself. You don't know, what's Spanish for pouting? El pauto. There you go. So now you get resented. Now you get angry because the person don't automatically know how you're feeling and could possibly help you because you don't know. But so we put this demand on people. Most of us are not even aware of these unspoken rules that you have and expectations that we have until the other person violates them, and then doggone, hey, wait, what did I say? What did I do? You violated the rule. And what is the rule? Whatever it is that you need to have people to do things the way you think they're supposed to be done. That's your rule. So the most common cause of this alienation or conflict between brothers and sisters in the Lord, husbands and wives, friends, people, is unrealistic expectations. And I know I'm using that over and over again, but I hope we get it. It's a subconscious thing. And these subconscious ideologies that we have developed over the years of serving ourself pose the biggest danger when each person in the relationship bring their own. I got mine, you got yours, and usually they conflict. Usually he does this, he don't do that. Well, we can't be friends then. But the fruit of the Spirit doesn't see the reasons why people don't come together. It don't have expectations. It don't need anything in return. It's forgiving and gentle and kind and long-suffering and it's patient. But when we project our viewpoint onto somebody else, we are assuming that they think and feel in the same way that we would in the same situation, and we expect them to behave the same way that we would behave or act, and guess what? It ain't happening. It is not happening. Just because you do it that way don't mean I'm going to do it that way. And because I'm going to do it that way don't mean that she's going to do it that way. Well, I think turnip greens are good. Well, I don't. Excuse me. Well, I think turnip greens are good. Well, you don't. There ain't nobody here don't like turnip greens, is it? I need to preach on something else if you do. We cannot expect others to think, believe, want, act, and respond the way that we do. Unrealistic expectations occur when we project on somebody else, and this is the bottom, this is what I'm getting to, what we want, what we need. Well, let me tell you what, I want you to do this. That's how I want you to respond. I did this, I expect you to do that. And when I don't do that, guess what? People get their feelings hurt, and guess what they want to do? They don't want nothing else to do with you. Well, just forget it then. If you're not going to fulfill my need and my wants and my desires, then we are not going to have relationship. You're exactly right. And anything that you think you have is not a true relationship. You can say we're friends, we're brothers in the Lord, or we're ecclesias. We say whatever we want. But what we are is sinners. because we are still serving the flesh, and I don't care what you believe about what I teach about heaven, hell, Satan. It's irrelevant. It's important. You got to know it. But if you're not changing, that's why I say this is how I know whether I'm growing or slowing. It makes me understand, Johnny, you must be getting weary and well-doing. And you're not going to reap because you're going to faint. And you're going to blame somebody else for it. Don't make people read your mind. Somebody's close to us does something that seems in deep contrast with the standards we've put on that person. When I say standards, I'm not talking about godly standards, okay? Well, I'm going to put this on you. You got to do this. This is what I expect you to do. We're friends. That's what friends mean. We're married. You're my husband. I'm the wife. Boom, I expect all this. When we put that on the person and they don't live up to it, guess what happens? We often feel hurt. We're betrayed, angry, confused, and angry. And so angry some more. Because you must not love me because you didn't give me what I wanted. Are y'all listening to me? No, you didn't give me what I wanted because that means you don't love me. No, that means that we're different. I've had people tell me, you're the last person I ever expected would do that. Do what? Do what? It could be something so insignificant. You really let me down, man. What? How? What did I do? What didn't I do? This is the one I hate. This isn't like you at all, Johnny. No, it's just like me. That's what you need to understand. It is just like me. You're just like you. Now, do we really love one another, or do we want to have to be what you have to be what I want you to be, and I have to be what you want me to be, and then we love one another? Or do we really love one another? I thought about this song I wrote. I called it Mama. It has it talks about a lot of things. But one of the lines saying there, I can't even think of the line now. Say, it says, couldn't give you the love that you really wanted. I was too busy loving me. And see what happens, you develop a relationship with your mama, and this is what you think your mama's for, to meet all your needs. And you know what's sad? Most mamas try to do that. I mean, they want to say, what do you want, baby? What do you want to do this? What do you, blah, 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 blah. And so that's why mama says this. What you want, baby? Because you're a baby. And when you want somebody else to be your mommy, what you're saying is, you're going to give me what I want, goo-goo. You're going to give me what I want. You're going to give to me, and if you don't, guess what? You're not my mama no more. I know the tunnel vision that we can develop when the only information we let come through us is the information that supports the view that we have or who we want that person to be. And if they're not that, guess what? Screw it. Oh, you want to be that way? Well, guess what? And guess what? You do it to me, I'm going to do it back. I'll tell you what. That's stealing. Vengeance is God's. The truth is that people show us exactly who they are by the way they act every day. Why are you surprised? And I'm not talking about a sinner, okay? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about dumb stuff. I'm talking about little bitty things that get on our nerves about people. And it gets on your nerves about it because you're selfish. It gets on my nerves because it ain't giving me what I want. Well, I ain't how I do it. Well, guess what? I'm not you. Turnips, no turnips. It doesn't matter. when we choose to break this illusion and we replace assumptions and expectations with a truthful evaluation of what it really is, that's just Cheyenne. That's him. Then guess what? Now freedom comes. I'm freedom from expectation. Guess what happens? You don't disappoint me no more, man. You don't disappoint me no more. And so what if you do? I'm the one that needs to change because the disappointment is usually out of my deficit. That's where I go first. I'm trying to learn that. I've learned it somewhat, and I'm putting it into practice. In my relationship with my wife was important, and relationship with other people. I know that, look, if you don't do it the way I want you to do, look, that's me. And really the reason that I don't want to, I retaliate and put you away and become alienated is because the same reason the guy who I met in my office couldn't face me no more. You don't want to face the fact of your deficit. So you disappointed me, guess what that does? That shows me what kind of person I am. You are the one who uncovered me being a big baby by disappointing me. You disappointed me. Because disappointment comes from what you didn't react and do what I needed you to do or I wanted you to do. And so guess what? That now uncovers me for what I'm not, and so I don't want to be around you no more. That's why I tell you, that person that gets on your nerves is the one that's going to get you a well done. You know why? Because it's going to expose to you your problem. Y'all hear me today? That's what ecclesia is about. Yeah, that people in ecclesia, I don't even like them. Well, guess what? That's because of you. That's because of you. You don't like your wife, it's because of you. Now, there could be exceptions. But I'm telling you, with regular good people, I'm not talking about with idiots, okay? And that tunnel vision, the opportunity now is to have real, authentic, honest, ecclesia, God type of relationships that become to us. And now I love you because God does. And God is in me reconciling people back. God is in us loving people by His Spirit. And if you can't do that, you don't have the Spirit of God. If you have the Spirit of God, Joshua said, you are none of His. You're in trouble. Yeah, but I come to church, you don't know what I do. It doesn't matter. Relationships end for the dumbest reasons. But let me tell you why it really ends. Because when somebody don't live up to your expectation or my expectation, then it uncovers something about us that we don't want to see. So we push you away. And we become aliens. The most common reason being that people come into relationships with certain expectations. True or not? Hey man, I like this guy. Why do you like him? There's going to be a reason why you like him, and it's going to have to do with you. True? Man, I like this guy. Well, what's he doing for you? What do you think he's going to do? Because I'm going to tell you, it's going to disappoint you. Because he can't fill your deficit. You have a wounded spirit, and you got to get saved from that. And when we don't meet, or you have this unspoken thing starting and fuels a domino effect that will lead to the end of a relationship. Man, people used to be, you my tight, you my buddy, we buddies, we BFFs. Just wait. Just wait. Because when they no longer fulfill your selfish desires, you'll dump them. And that ain't what ecclesia life's about. Ecclesia life is about people who are genuinely begotten of God, who have the Spirit of God, and who emanate the fruit of the Spirit. Are y'all with me tonight? Now, I'm going to finish with this. That wounded spirit is there. That deficit's there. That fallen nature is in us. That law, sin, and death, that whole thing that we have is in there. And what expectation or disappointment does is it brings that thing alive, and it like takes the scab off of it and makes it raw. And this is why. Listen close to me. It fuels rejection. I've seen the biggest, the baddest, the toughest, the meanest, and we all have a sense of not wanting to be rejected. And when somebody doesn't live up to what you want and meet your needs, you interpret that. Your rejection shows up, and you take it, and it's way deeper than it's ever meant. Nobody was trying to really hurt you. You're already hurt. Are y'all hearing me? And the people who can do it the worst is the ones that we've taken the chance. Listen, I'm talking to everybody in the world. Bring close. Okay, I'm taking a chance here. I love you. I've taught y'all years ago about internal dialogue. Man. That internal dialogue will jump and grab the microphone. And he will magnify that to your heart and mind and begin to make you pressured to believe that what happened is a reflection of your identity and worth. Just like that preacher that walked in there, proud and arrogant. And guess what? Somebody reminded him he was nobody. You really nobody. We don't know who you may be some big shot in your little church. You may be the apostle or whatever in that little church over there, but guess what? Nobody else could care less. You are insignificant to them. No. Do you know who I am? No, I don't know who you are. And guess what? Then that wounded spirit got his feelings hurt. And I'll tell you, and this one man in particular, and I've talked to him about this before. He has a spirit of murder. Now, I ain't going to tell you all the details, but I mean a literal spirit of murder. When I say spirit, it ain't a demon of murder. It just means that he is so wounded in his little old spirit that anything that may challenge, he gets rejected, he'll kill you. I've seen him in a Starbucks. Had to pull him off a guy. This is the preacher, man. He didn't ever really get to the guy, but he was coming across that table after him. Anger, resentment, murder. Why? Because of wounded spirit. What you did, you just made him feel rejected again. Excuse me. See, our value, our identification, our validation has to come from the love that God has for us. And it don't come from anywhere else, guys. There is no other way to be validated. You may think you are until the day comes and somebody pulls it back. And I'm sure they already have, or you've already banned all of them from being around you. No, don't talk to him. No, not friends anymore. I'm an alien. That internal dialogue, man, he starts talking and magnifying and pressuring that. And that the core of who you really are, it begins to build up again. Instead of that tank of water of baptism should be a death. But guess what? No, we like that. We like to keep it alive. And what happens, it whispers the lie of rejection to your mind and to your heart and to your subconscious. And it just reminds you, man, you really ain't nothing. That's why they didn't respond the way you want them to, because you are nothing. You are a piece of nothing. Your daddy said you were nothing. Everybody, you're nothing. You were born nothing because we were in sin, going back to dirt. You're a dirt bag, as they say. That's in the heart and the mind and the DNA of every person that's ever lived. And anybody who acts any different than that is just acting different. Rejection. Man, it's a horrible thing. And a person who has that deep inside of them, guess what? You will wind up just rejecting other people because they didn't do what your expectation was. They didn't do what you needed, so your rejection will cause you to reject them. They're not rejecting you, but you think they are, so guess what you do? Because you reap what you sow. It comes back. What you are in here is how you're going to treat other people. It brings pain and bondage if we don't know how to distinguish the difference between a lie and the truth. That's a lie. I want to tell you what, I have learned the voice of rejection in my life. I know it well. He can talk with a German accent, Danny. Clink, Denabakata. Wee wee, barnyard manure. Some of y'all got that. With a French accent, tally ho! I watched a video the other day of Noel and Marley. We took them to a petting zoo out here somewhere out west of town, and they had a little pony ride. And so the lady who was guiding the pony was from England. And so I'm like, giddy up. I said, oh, I'm sorry, that's not what they say in England. She said, no, they say, hi-ho. I say, hi-ho, that's what the Lone Ranger says. He's not from England. That pain, listen to me. Y'all look at me. I'm almost done. You're in prison, bro. Ma'am, you're in prison. You're in the worst prison there is. You're in prison. It would be easier for you to be in prison at San Quentin or whatever, up here at Stark or somewhere like that. You are in prison. It is the worst prison, and it's a prison, and it's what do they call it when you put you all by yourself? Solitary confinement. It is the alien cell. It prevents true relationships, and it will sabotage what God's trying to do in a true ecclesia. Say, oh my God. What? The real truth about each of us is found in God's Word. Ephesians 1:6. This is what I had to learn. He made us accepted in the beloved. It took me years to believe that. It took me years to really convince myself, not with hyper, of grace that God don't care about God don't care if I sin or not. I'm not talking about that. He's made me accepted. And it began when my first son was born. That I realized God loves me more than that. Wow. And then there began to be a transformation in my core beliefs. And it took me I went almost too far this way. And then this is kind of how my life has been. It's like this. You know what I'm saying? Here's the truth. I go here, boing, boing, boing. Is that a good illustration? I didn't have props and I did it. Look, if you have an expectation that people are overlooking you, they don't appreciate you, they're just using you, you got a wounded spirit. When you feel bad, when you hear somebody else being praised, honored, promoted, or noticed, and you can't rejoice because it reminds you that you're being overlooked, you got a wounded spirit. If you walk in the room and people are talking, they stop when you enter, and you think they're talking about you negatively, guess what? Wounded spirit. When you think the worst, if somebody calls you or emails you or your messages aren't returned immediately, You never think the person might be busy or has gotten the message. You will always conclude that they're purposely ignoring you or avoiding you. Wounded spirit. If someone declines an invitation you've given them, you don't really believe it's for a legitimate reason. Oh, okay. But you attribute rejection of you as a person to be their motive. You constantly feel slighted by the smallest things, even when somebody don't make eye contact with you, they don't greet you at church, or you're not being invited to a group of people who are chatting or whatever. You got a wounded spirit, man. You find yourself struggling to fit in some clique because you believe if you can fit in the clique, you won't be rejected. Well, I told somebody this. Somebody said, no, there's cliques in this church. I said, no, there's not. There's not a clique here. There's people who maybe flock together. I don't think it's a clique. You're strongly motivated to strive to be a high achiever, to prove your worth and obtain recognition and validation from everybody and others. Holy Spirit. You're always bragging about your achievements and showing off or exaggerating so somebody will be impressed. It's another sign of being that thing in us. When you're always driven to be the savior or the hero, which is really needing to feel wanted or important. When you are critical and demeaning toward other people. Because really all you're doing is trying to make yourself feel superior. I mean, I've seen guys do it to their wives, man. It's like, don't you know what that doing is showing what a little weenie you are? Yeah, but she deserved it. So do you. Don't forget, Christ died for you too. Why? Because He had to. Shy away from making any kind of deep relationships or getting vulnerable with people or maintaining, even if they don't do it the way we want them to do. Guess what? Because we really are doing this. We're avoiding the pain of rejection. Forget it then. You quit trusting people. Which really comes back to trusting God. Feel hopeless. You know, sometimes this thing goes off. I've heard people say this. Well, it's just better if I were just dead. Or I wish I would just die. Thinking that death is going to be an escape. From what? You. And your pain. I want to tell you your escape. Christ will set you free from the law of sin and death. You know, some are inward signs, some are outward signs. When all this thing, when I'm judging myself and I'm looking, you may notice you have a few of the signs manifesting. Well, you know what, Johnny? Well, I'm not that. I don't want to kill myself or nothing, but I am that. If you can be honest. See, people normally who do not have the spirit of truth about themselves can never accept the truth about the gospel. They'll always have a hesitation. There'll be hesitation there. Okay, I believe that. Well, I don't believe that, though. Well, I believe that. Well, I don't know if I believe that or not. I got to tell you some good news. Yahweh is willing and wants to and is able to heal us of this. And you ain't ever going to be happy with nothing till you do. Why don't you teach a marriage seminar? Today's one of the best ones you'll ever get. Because this is the problem with, see, marriage ain't a problem. Marriage is no big deal. It's the relationship part that is. Right? It's to getting along with one another. It's communicating or not communicating. It's the hurt feelings. It's all that kind of stuff. Marriage is easy except when you have to pay for one that's coming up in June. Oh, excuse me, I got carried away. And Michelle, you know I offered them money to run off, don't you? It's okay to talk about it now, isn't it? How are we going to heal this thing? How am I going to really get freedom from this spirit of rejection, Johnny? I'm glad you asked that question. Starts with forgiveness. So those people who've said or done things that made you feel rejected, even if it's their fault, this is a choice that's not an emotional feeling. Your emotions will catch up. Remember I told you that? You forgive them. It's an act of just, I'm going to do it. I forgive you. I choose to forgive you. Your emotions will catch up. You know why? Because that forgiving people causes you to be forgiven. A lot of people's problems of why they're not walking in what God calls us to walk in is because they're living in unforgiveness. And listen to this. If you don't forgive others, God will not forgive you. I'm a Christian. You're an unforgiving Christian. Exactly. You don't have to go to every person, my God, because they may not be ready to forgive yet. You go to somebody and say, hey, I just want you to know you hurt me, what you said to me, and I'm choosing to forgive you today. Oh, my God. We're going to have the worst church in America. Hey, I want you to know, man, I'm going to forgive you for that. For what? What'd I do? Oh, my God. Y'all hear me? Oh, jeez. Then you need to forgive yourself with all the screw-ups and the past failures of your life. Because, guys, look at me. Ladies, if you don't forgive yourself of what you did in the past, you're never going to receive God's forgiveness. You can't. Well, I know God forgive me, but I can't forgive myself. Then you're just in bad shape as you were before God didn't forgive you. You forgive others. Forgive yourself. Listen. Guess what? You wouldn't all that anyhow. You didn't have a chance. Yeah, but you don't know what I've done. It don't matter. We have all sinned. And if you think your sin is worse than my sin, then you're just nuts. Yeah, but you don't know what my sin is. It doesn't matter. Is Charles Manson here today? Is Jeffrey Dahmer here? Let me see here. Jeffrey, are you here today? No. Then okay. You're not even close. Jack the Ripper, are you here tonight? Bow your head, close your eyes. Y'all hear me? Quit thinking your sin is so bad. What you're doing is your rejection is keeping God from forgiving you. Forgive yourself, man. In other words, are y'all ready? Choose to stop rejecting yourself. That's how you forgive yourself. When you don't forgive yourself, you're rejecting yourself. When you don't forgive others, you're rejecting others. And when you don't accept God's forgiveness, you are rejecting God. I thought that was good preaching right there. Isaiah 43:18. Put it up there. What are you talking about? It starts with a choice and a decision of your and my will that we choose to forgive ourselves. Remember not the former things, nor consider the things of old. There you go. Release all that rejection of your past to Yahweh, man. Yeshua was a man of sorrows. He was much acquainted with grief, and we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Invite and ask Yahweh. And I say invite because of this. This is what it is. A person that is rejected and feels rejection don't usually do the inviting. Hey, won't you ask her out? No, I'm rejected. Hey, won't you ask them over for dinner? No, I don't. Won't you do? People with a rejection problem, a wounded spirit, don't do the inviting. And what you need to do is you need to invite Yahweh. Say, listen, man, I got this problem. You know what he's going to say? Yeah, we know. You have this problem because you're all part of the same family. Everybody in Adam's family has this problem. Y'all hear me? Say, Lord, say, Yahweh, I want to be healed of every wounded place in my heart. And I don't want to hold nothing back. Because if you do, you're holding that little place that you still want people to feed that rejection or give you what you want. You have to just surrender to Him. I love Jeremiah 30:17. Man, I love this. Then Zedekiah the king sent and took him out. Chapter 30. I was just studying about Zedekiah today. That's why it threw me off there a little bit. For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith the Lord, because they had called thee an outcast, saying, This is Zion, who no man seeketh after. Man. What I'm going to do, and what I want you to pray about doing, and this is something I have done, is I had a covenant and an agreement and a bond and a commitment to the lie of rejection. Because that's all it is, a lie. And I had to break association to the point that I refused to listen to the lie anymore. I replaced the lie with the truth about who I am in Christ. I got my validation from God first and foremost. Now, I got to tell you, what my wife thinks about me and feels about me is a big deal to me. But I will never be able to have a relationship with her out of a wounded spirit or out of being rejected. You know, you can miss a couple of Sundays and then feel, well, I don't know if anybody likes me anymore over there, you know. I've seen it happen hundreds of times, man. People, well, you know, we've been gone for 2 weeks. I mean, y'all still love us, don't you? You kidding me? And then I want you to tear the contract up, burn it, get rid of it, with agreement that you made with the spirit of self-pity. Poor little me, I'll tell you what, you ain't going to do that? Well, guess what? I'm going to do it back to you. We're never going to get anywhere, especially a well done, until you decide to tear up the contract of rejection and tear up the agreement of self-pity, because we love us some self-pity. Hit me. Hit me. We love it. And you're never going to do that till you're willing to confess. The word is homologio. To speak the same as the word. Same as word. To confess that self-pity is a sin to God. And it's probably more vicious than adultery and fornication and other ones. Because it will cause all of the above. Are y'all hearing me? Then you need to choose to accept yourself. This is how I figure it. He accepted me. Why does it matter if anybody else really does or not? Without an attitude, you know. Well, you don't accept me, then forget it. No, I'm talking about, look, God made me like this. I decided to just live with it. He made me this. This is what I am. He called me to be this. He made me just like this to be what He called me to be. Go with it. Accept yourself the way you are. Now, I'm not talking about sin and with the spirit of rejection and all that. God has accepted you. Galatians 2:20, I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer I who live, but Christ who loved me and gave himself for me. I love that. He loved me. He gave himself for me. Realize that you and I are important and a necessary part of the Bible. I'm almost finished. Then you got to do this. Somebody says, you do a lot of studying? I do. You know, I'm a knowledge hog and I do a lot of studying. Do you pray? How much do you pray? I pray all the time, guys. I don't have to go to a prayer closet and pray. I pray 24/7. I'm always praying, talking to God, doing this, adjusting this. I'm not boasting in that. I'm just telling you, that's what it takes. You can't go be carnal-minded and come in on Sunday and try to get your mind on the Lord. It won't happen. You can't worship God on Sunday if you ain't doing it 24/7. So you got to diligently renew your mind with the truth of God's Word about what He says about yourself. Get that scripture in you. Quit trying to be conformed to the world, but be transformed. How? By renewing your mind. And it goes on to say that you may prove what is that will of God. And the will of God is good, acceptable, and perfect. One final word. Did I say that already? Gee, I got so many more. I wouldn't do this except, I don't know how many of you read the Ecclesia book. Colossians 1:24 says this, for His body's sake. For His body's sake. Why would I want to do this? Well, you know what? Ultimately, it's going to be for His body's sake. Not an alien nation, but a Christ nation. A kingdom of God. An ecclesia. I do this for your sake as much as I do anything else. I live this way, and I choose to live this way, and I want to live this way, and I work toward living this way for the body's sake. Quit taking this for granted. Labor constantly for the health and welfare. The truth is indestructible, and it is eternal. Ecclesia. House number 1, house number 2, house number 3. It's fragile. Marriage is fragile. Your relationship with God is fragile, and it constantly needs tending and caring for. I've seen them flourish, and I've seen them fail. I've seen them live, and I've seen them die. I've seen them grow, and I've seen people wither. The difference in us will be you. And you. And you and you and you up there and you over there and you and you and you and you. That's going to be the difference. Because we're going to help you in house number 1 and 2, and house number 1 and 2 is going to help us be us. The health of all relationships depends on the spirit of the ecclesia. The oneness, the unity, the closeness, the mutual affection, the care of the members one for another. The body is not healthy unless all parts are alive and active and working and not alienated from each other. I'm going to close with this. Remember, as it is in earth, let it be on earth as it is in heaven. What you do here determines on what comes back to you. If I forgive you, God forgives me. Whether you forgive me back or not is irrelevant. And if you don't forgive me back, guess what? I'm not supposed to say, well, I don't forgive you back either then. No, I don't. What you do is irrelevant to what I do. You understand that? How you respond to me is irrelevant to how I respond to God and for God. I'm going to do what God said. You know why? Because God did that for me. He treats me with the fruit of the Spirit. God is love, joy, peace. God is so long-suffering with me. And for me to have the audacity and the ignorance and the arrogance to treat anybody else different from that tells me you don't have the Spirit of Christ in you. Y'all hear what I'm saying? You mean to tell me God forgives you, but you won't forgive somebody, or God put up with all your spirit of rejection, but you can't put on with somebody else's? You're a hypocrite. Don't think you're anything. Well, Johnny, if I'm not anything, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to. God treats us that way, and that's how we should treat others. And we're going to keep doing it whether they respond or not, or whether they fill our needs or not, or they do it the way we want to. We're just going to love them because, you know what? Because we do love them, and we can't help ourselves. Amen? God bless you, Ustream.